Welcome to the course Look-Fors in a Dual Language Classroom, prepared by the Division of Multilingual Education. When discussing the expectations and work of the district, it is always important to consider alignment to the district documents, including moving to the next level through one voice, one vision, one mission, to ensure that the brilliance of our children is realized and celebrated every day in every Buffalo public school. Now, in terms of alignment to this professional learning opportunity, while relevant to all of the focus areas, the strongest alignment is services for our neediest children and families. This course is also aligned with Dr. Williams' innovative 5 by 25 strategy, which lays out 5 major goals for the Buffalo Public Schools to achieve by the year 2025. In terms of alignment to this professional learning opportunity, while relevant to all 5 goals, the strongest alignment is with goals 1, 2, and 3, eliminating achievement and opportunity gaps, access to educational excellence and accelerated learning, and amplifying all voices and cultivating trust. Another guiding document of the district is the 3-year Student Success Plan. The purpose of the Student Success Plan is to establish Buffalo Public Schools' instructional theory of action while informing stakeholders of current and upcoming initiatives, creating a cohesive narrative to connect initiatives and beliefs, and establishing shared language to discuss academic initiatives. Our theory of action holds that if we want to prepare our students to be successful socially and academically, now and in future endeavors, the district must ensure a welcoming and affirming environment, hold high expectations for all students, provide rigorous instruction and inclusive curriculum and assessments, and provide ongoing professional learning opportunities to prepare all staff to support students. Here is the Division of Multilingual House, which guides our work and aligns with the state regulations Part 151 and Part 154, and with the Blueprint for English Language Learner Success and the district guiding documents. This PD aligns with the pillar related to providing professional learning opportunities for all stakeholders to meet the needs of our multilingual learners. As multilingual learners are found in all buildings, each one of us, no matter in what capacity we serve, must have the skills and knowledge in which to engage our multilingual learners. The overall mission of the division is that all multilingual learners have access to high-quality educational opportunities as they work towards becoming bilingual, biliterate, and successful in college and in life as members of an increasingly diverse global society. Disclaimer. The Division of Multilingual Education strives to create learning opportunities that will enhance the capacity of Buffalo Public School employees. This course is designed to give you an overview of the understanding of Buffalo Public Schools and DME's Look-Fors in dual language classrooms to support multilingual learners in the classroom. The pictures, information, and statements in this course derive from a variety of sources as cited throughout the training and referenced at the end of this presentation. DME makes every effort to provide you with the most updated, accurate information. The course content will be updated yearly or as we are aware of new guidance and information. Purpose. The Division of Multilingual Education believes that district school administrators, teachers, and school staff are key advocates for promoting and supporting dual language education. Together, we can collaborate and provide support systems, program monitoring, and guidance to ensure the successful implementation and fidelity to the school's dual language program. The goal of this course is to enhance background knowledge, become familiar with Buffalo Public Schools, and DME recommendations and best practices of dual language classrooms. The course objectives include for participants to understand Buffalo Public Schools' dual language programs and New York State regulations and guiding principles, Become familiar with key terms and definitions in dual language programs, and understand the district expectations by learning the look-fors for dual language classroom. For example, classroom environment, verbal communication, and teaching strategies. There are three main components for today's agenda. The first is understanding Buffalo Public Schools dual language programs and New York State regulations and guiding principles. Second, learn and review key terms and definitions. And finally, participants will review look-fors for dual language classrooms. Before we begin diving into the content, please reflect on the following essential question. How can we establish a classroom community that values the use of Spanish and English while using dual language best teaching practices to help students acquire new knowledge and make sense of both academic and social contexts? We will start with part 1, understanding Buffalo Public Schools dual language programs and New York State regulations and guiding principles. Buffalo Public Schools dual language programs are located in the following schools: School 3, School 30, School 33, School 156, School 64, School 48, School 76, and School 207 with bilingual support. In one-way models, students are from one language group. They are native Spanish speakers. In two-way models, students are from two language groups. They are native speakers of Spanish and native speakers of English. The goal is to have 50% of the students in each language. The 4 schools that have a 50-50 immersion model provide instruction in both languages in equal amounts of time. The 3 schools that have a 90-10 immersion model immerse students in Spanish in the early years with small portion of the English. For example, the initial amount of instruction in Spanish is 90% and 10% in English. Now let's preview New York State regulations and guiding principles. To adhere to CR Part 154, Buffalo Public Schools strives to find innovative ways to ensure that English language learners, ELs, have the right to a meaningful opportunity to participate in the educational program. By adhering to CR Part 154, students will have equal access to all school programs and services offered to non-EL students, including access to programs required for graduation. Education Law 3204 and Part 154 contain standards for educational services provided to all students in New York State. See Appendix A and Schoology for a PDF printout of CR Part 154. The Blueprint for English Language Learner and Multilingual Learner Success. Buffalo Public Schools adheres to the principles in the Blueprint for English Language Learner, Multilingual Learner Success. This document clarifies and shares expectations for school administrators, teachers, and staff to prepare ELs for success, and lays the foundation for college and career readiness. See Appendix B in Schoology for the PDF printout of the Blueprint. Scan the QR code to access CR Part 154 regulations and the Blueprint for English Language Learners and Multilingual Learners Success.
This Units of Study table is a guideline for mandated services for ELs as per Commissioner's Regulations Part 154-2 in English as a New Language programs. As always, ENL instruction is an integral part of the bilingual education program. Please pause the video and take a few minutes to review and understand the guidelines for the mandated services for ELs and English as New Language program.
We will now begin with Part 2. This section will help us become familiar with key terms and definitions in dual language classrooms. In the next few slides, we will begin by discussing the importance of language allocation in dual language classrooms. The importance of language allocation in dual language classrooms. Language allocation is essential to adhere to New York State Commissioner's Regulations, CR Part 154, and to promote bilingualism and biliteracy in the classroom. The school's dual language classroom schedules should be strategically planned with an established academic purpose for promoting biliteracy and promoting the academic use of Spanish and English. Both the bilingual and E&L units of study should be used as a guideline for bilingual E&L services. To promote biliteracy in the classroom, the language distribution should reflect the school's program model, 50-50 and 90-10. The teachers should ensure fidelity to the language allocation by following and adhering to the language as reflected in their schedule. This is commonly referred to as language allocation policy. DME has created one-way and two-way language allocation planning tools for dual language schools and to facilitate the planning of language allocation in their dual language programs. See Appendix D and E in Schoology for PDF printout of one-way and two-way language allocation planning tools. Let's continue. What is language allocation policy? According to the book Guiding Principles of Dual Language Education, a school's language allocation policy is the ratio of the use of English to the use of the partner language of instruction. The language allocation policy is decided by schools, and the decision is based on what language to use, when, and where, as well as the time allotted for each language. Why is it important for dual language programs to have a language allocation policy? Accounting for the time students spend in each language is critical to support the central premise of dual language education. Development of biliteracy and academic language development. It allows the proper development of both languages. Accounting for the time students spend in each language is necessary for students to develop biliteracy. Here you will find sample schedules for language allocation for one-way model and two-way model. Please pause the video and take a few minutes to review the planning and the language allocation in each schedule. The goal is to reach the minutes as close as possible. See Appendix D and E in Schoology to access these examples. We will now begin with the second section of Part 2. We will review commonly used key terms to describe dual language program models. There are two types of program immersion models in dual language education: partial and full immersion models. First, let's discuss partial immersion models, also referred to as 50-50. Partial immersion is used when instruction is provided in both languages in equal amounts of time. In most cases, content areas are taught in both languages by alternating each language by time, teacher, day, or by week. Now let's look at the full immersion model, or 90-10. A full immersion model happens when students are immersed in Spanish in the early years with small portion of English instruction. For example, the initial amount of instruction in Spanish is 90% and 10% in English. By third grade, the amount of English instruction increases and the amount of Spanish instruction decreases. In some schools, by fourth and fifth grade, it can become 50-50 in the language allocation. What immersion model does your school have? Now that we have learned about the different immersion models, let's review the two program models for student populations. The two models we will be discussing are one-way and two-way. In one-way models, students are from one language group and are native Spanish speakers. In two-way models, students are from two language groups. They are native speakers of Spanish and native English speakers. The goal is to have 50% of the students in each language. What program model does your school have? To summarize Part 1 and 2 of this course, how can we support bilingualism and biliteracy in dual language classrooms? We can start by understanding and adhering to New York State regulations. Here are Part 154 and New York State and Buffalo Public Schools guiding principles. For example, adhering to the school's language allocation policy. Teachers need to have fidelity to the language of instruction as reflected on their schedule. Second, promote bilingualism and biliteracy by creating an environment where the school and classroom community hears, sees, and speaks academic Spanish and English. And third, help communicate, inform, advocate, and monitor your classroom language allocation. We will now begin with the third section of Part 2. We will review the importance of having cross-linguistic connections in dual language classrooms. Please view the following 4 videos to learn about translanguaging from Dr. Ofelia Garcia on the subject of translanguaging.
View this video to learn about translanguaging.
Now that you have learned what is translanguaging, why should translanguaging be used? Translanguaging opportunities created for students will help language acquisition happen naturally. To value the student's language background and knowledge, teachers should strategically plan for the use of translanguaging instructional practices. Students should be empowered to tap into their bilingual, multilingual knowledge and resources to learn new academic language and content.
Now let's view this video to learn about if translanguaging is something everyone can do.
What are the important takeaways of translanguaging? Translanguaging can be viewed as a language practice by bilingual students and as a pedagogical practice by teachers. Teachers can provide opportunities to empower students to use their own language knowledge and experiences while learning new content. To facilitate translanguaging, structures and systems in the classroom should be created for students to deepen their academic understanding in both languages. In this last video, we will learn about translanguaging in a dual language program. To summarize the last 2 videos, how can translanguaging promote bilingualism and biliteracy in dual language classroom? Separating languages in the content areas will provide the foundation for students to develop academically in Spanish and English. While languages are separated in the content areas, natural opportunities for students to use their background knowledge in both languages should be acknowledged, valued, and encouraged. These translanguaging opportunities are provided strategically by teachers to help students tap into their prior knowledge and use what they know about each language to make sense of their world, socially and academically. Multilingual learners have the advantage of using 2 or more languages to make sense of new concepts. Educators should strive to empower multilingual learners to value and use 2 or more languages to help them understand academic content.
In this last video, we will learn about translanguaging in a dual language program.
Pause the video and take a few minutes to read examples of translanguaging as a pedagogical practice. Think of times you can implement these strategies. What are the benefits of these strategies? Please view the chart to review translanguaging in dual language classrooms and the roles and responsibilities for teachers and students. See Appendix F in Schoology to access the chart. Reminder: educators should be aware that translanguaging is not translating. Translations may lead students to tune out their second language, take away time from instruction, and it may be a watered-down version of the academic concept. Therefore, teachers should avoid translating or code switching, switching from English to Spanish or Spanish to English during instruction, but should strategically plan to make connections by creating anchor charts, word walls, spaces, and opportunities for translanguaging. These translanguaging opportunities will help students engage in a meaningful way with language, socially and academically. We have reached the third part of this course. Look for a dual language classroom. The next several slides will provide a glimpse of possible look-fors in a dual language classroom. We will first learn about the BPS expectations for the classroom environment in dual language classroom. Classroom environment, possible look-fors in dual language classroom. The main goal is to establish a classroom environment that values the use of both languages for students to make sense of both academic and social context. As per the classroom environment, some possible look-fors in Spanish content areas include Spanish print is represented in red, content and language objectives are posted and referred to throughout the lesson, WordWAS, anchor charts, and classroom labeling in both languages in dual language classrooms. Schoology is organized in ways students can find Spanish content areas and resources. Pictures of classroom print charts walls can be uploaded for students' reference. Student work is visible and current throughout the classroom. Possible look-fors in English content areas and standalone include English print represented in blue, content and language objectives are posted, word walls, anchor charts, and classroom labeling in both languages. Schoology is organized in ways students can find English, content areas, and resources. Pictures of classroom print, for example, charts, walls, can be uploaded for students to reference. Student work is visible and current throughout the classroom. Possible look-fors in support and collaboration with integrated ENL, ICT, and content area teachers. Teachers collaborate to ensure that both languages are represented, Spanish in red, English in blue. Teachers collaborate in the creation and implementation of strategically planned anchor charts, teacher notes, graphics, tables, lists, etc. Teachers collaborate to provide spaces with technology and bilingual resources, making sure they are available during Spanish and English instructional times for students to have access to them as a resource. Another look for is for teacher collaboration to be evident. Teacher collaboration includes for ENL, homeroom, and ICT teachers to strategically plan and actively support students during whole group, small group, or individualized instruction.
Integrated co-teaching takes place when teachers work collaboratively to strategically plan and actively support students during whole group, small group, or individualized instruction. The chart provides best practices on how to implement co-teaching strategies in the classroom. For example, a BPS expectation is for both teachers to plan for the lesson that is co-delivered. Please pause the video and take a moment to review the information.
In this second section of Part 3, we will learn about the BPS expectations for verbal communication in a dual language classroom. Verbal communication. Possible look-fors in Spanish content areas. Possible look-fors in Spanish content areas for teachers include plan and organize how Spanish will be used, including instructional supports that will help students produce academic Spanish. Show concrete examples in Spanish that represents formal and informal Spanish. Plan for language scaffolds and translanguage instructional strategies. Students use translanguaging strategies to tap into their personal language, knowledge of both languages to learn new academic language and content. Students can use both languages, code switch to fill in the gaps so that they can communicate or make sense of information. Students may transfer, borrow, loan words or blends and communicate using two languages. Possible look-fors in English content areas as it pertains to verbal communication. For teachers, teachers may plan and organize how English will be used, including instructional supports that will help students produce academic English. Show concrete examples in English that represents formal and informal English. Plan for language scaffolds and translanguaging instructional strategies. Students use translanguaging strategies to tap into their personal language knowledge of both languages to learn new academic language and content. Students can use both languages, code switch, to fill in the gaps so that they can communicate or make sense of information. They may also transfer, borrow, loan words, and or blends to communicate using two languages. Verbal communication as it pertains to integrated ENL, ICT, and content area teacher support collaboration. Look for teachers. They co-plan and support students in the content academic language that is being taught. They collaborate and plan teaching opportunities where students use knowledge of both languages to make connections. They focus on language similarities, cognates, plurals, punctuations, similar patterns. They focus in language differences. For example, gender in Spanish words and not in English. Vowel sounds and in Spanish versus vowel sounds in English. And teachers develop concrete examples and visuals to support instruction. Please remember that teachers stay in the language according to the language allocation policy. No flip-flopping between Spanish and English. Translanguaging language strategies are strategically planned and used as scaffolds based on the student's needs and strengths. Possible translanguaging supports to promote verbal communication. During the co-planning and collaboration, some possible translanguage supports to promote verbal communication in the acquired language include sentence prompts, word banks, pictures, charts, glossaries, dictionaries, hot questions, cross-linguistic connections, using translanguaging as a teaching strategy and learning tool. We are now on the third section of part 3. Look for in dual language classrooms as it pertains to teaching strategies in Spanish and English content areas and during standalone and integrated instruction. Some possible look-fors for teaching strategies may include but are not limited to the following. The instruction reflects the schedule's language of instruction. Data-driven instruction is used to adjust instructional strategies and materials. Cross-linguistic connections or translanguaging as a teaching strategy and learning tool. Focusing on context, previewing, activating prior knowledge, ideas are explained, paraphrased in various ways, using definition, examples, and non-examples. Providing opportunities for students to demonstrate their knowledge and make connections. Student voice is encouraged. Peer talk, providing examples, graphic organizers, pointing, signaling, matching, drawing, etc. Possible look-fors in Spanish content areas may include content and language objectives are introduced and revisited throughout the lesson and at closure in Spanish. Instruction in Spanish is based on the New York State standards and BPS instructional guides. Lessons and strategies are strategically planned to deepen the essential understanding for students to make connections from Spanish to English. The dictado is used to teach spelling, punctuation, vocabulary, and grammar. Lessons are taught using academic Spanish to teach Spanish literacy and content and explain how Spanish works. Possible look-fors in English content areas may include content and language objectives are introduced and revisited throughout the lesson and at closure in English. Instruction in English is based on the New York State standards and BPS instructional guides. Lessons and strategies are strategically planned to deepen the essential understanding for students to make connections from English to Spanish. Strategies provide students with the opportunity to use English within a context that builds on their background knowledge. Lessons are taught using academic English and how it works. L strategies are implemented, focusing on oral language development to help students understand words they are studying before working on new skills, high frequency words, spelling, vocabulary, multiple meaning words, etc. As you may have noticed, most strategies can be used in both Spanish and English content areas. Remember, for all English and Spanish content areas, the teacher uses visuals, objects, gestures, total physical response, builds background knowledge, explicit vocabulary instruction, longer wait time, think aloud and modeling, sentence starters, chunking text, pictures, drawings, video. E&L, ICT, and content area teacher support and collaboration are expectations from Buffalo Public Schools. On this slide, you will find some teaching strategies to support and promote teacher collaboration. Teachers collaborate and strategically plan to have active roles in every classroom. Concepts are not retaught in either language. When necessary, they are extended from the other language. Teaching strategies are concrete and comprehensible. Teachers facilitate making connections and providing scaffolds before, during, and after students have learned the big ideas to ensure the essential understandings of a new lesson or content. Teachers should create a visual representation in one language of what students have learned and then add the equivalent in the other language. Examples, illustrations, photos, side-by-side strategies, list of words in the T-chart, diagrams. Teachers facilitate comparing the two languages to develop meta-linguistic awareness. Quick look at the E&L instructional settings. There are two E&L instructional settings, standalone E&L and integrated E&L. In the integrated instructional setting, Ls and non-Ls are in a content area instruction. During the integrated E&L classroom setting, E&L, ICT, and content area teachers are expected to strategically plan, collaborate, and provide services to students. The standalone E&L instructional setting is specific to our entering and emerging Ls. Entering and emerging students are required to receive standalone L services as per CR Part 154. The next slide will give you a closer look at the standalone framework.
Let's now take a quick look at the standalone framework. In order to adhere to CR Part 154 in regards to providing L services to students, all entering and emerging Ls should receive instruction during standalone. E&L teachers should focus on small group instruction and use ERLA as an assessment tool, leveled readers, letters, Haggerty, and OG mini lessons. When developing an instructional plan for students, it is helpful to begin by gathering data from the NYSESLAT, ERLA, and classroom assessments. With the information gathered, teachers can provide various scaffolds that can be used to help students receive differentiated instruction. This includes, but is not limited to, explicitly teaching academic vocabulary, connecting new information with prior experiences and learning, using a graphic organizer, and/or using sentence starters. Scaffolds are intended to provide temporary support to students who need them. You can apply multiple scaffolds at once and gradually take them away as the student progresses. The goal is to make content and assessments accessible to students by reducing the linguistic processing demand, cognitive load, so that Ls and MELs can focus on skill building and language acquisition in more manageable chunks. Please pause this video and take a moment to read and learn more about each strategy.
To summarize the content of this course, we can refer to the essential question: how can we establish a classroom community that values the use of both Spanish and English while using the best dual language teaching practices to help students acquire new knowledge and make sense of both academic and social context? By learning and implementing the content and teaching practices addressed in this course, one can promote bilingualism and biliteracy when used with fidelity in a dual language classroom. Adhering to the language allocation will provide instructional focus on developing academic Spanish and English language proficiency. Using cross-linguistic connections, such as translanguaging, provides opportunities for students to tap into both languages to acquire and make sense of new academic content.